Whether you've dealt with somebody with anger or dealing with anger yourself, or have dealt with somebody else that has anger, it's easy to see how destructive anger can be in any relationship. Certain destructive characteristics like bitterness, jealousy, unforgiveness, deception, those things are like slow erosion. They're still very destructive to relationships, but it's like a slow erosion. Eventually, some things start coming out, or an unforgiveness over time. It destroys relationships. There's always a wall between you and whoever it is. But this aspect of anger is an explosive aspect when it comes to relationships. Just years of healthy relationships can be destroyed in moments of anger. Paul encourages the church at Colossae to put away these things here in Colossians 3, verse 8. But now ye also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. He understands the immediate and imminent destructive tendencies that this type of behavior can create. There are people, I would say, that are not necessarily angry people, okay? You can have an outburst of anger and not, I wouldn't classify you as, this person is an angry person because you have a bout of anger. But there are people, and maybe you can think of somebody that they're just naturally an angry person. Every interaction that they have, every reaction to a situation or a problem, it's just coated with anger. Whether it's a fit of anger or just an angry response to everything. So I'm not saying necessarily if you have an outburst of anger, like, I'm just an angry person in totality. And like Miss Jen, she got banned from Facebook because of her angry outbursts on Facebook. So if you don't know the story, Miss Jen is not an angry person. Not very many people are consumed with anger I would identify as an angry person, but it is easy to have anger in moments of frustration, stress, or confrontation. But still, even though you're not an angry person, angry outbursts or having anger in your relationships is still damaging. And we're going to look at that, okay? What are some of the effects of anger? First, it destroys relationships with others. Proverbs 29:22, an angry man stirreth up strife, and a furious man aboundeth in transgressions. A couple weeks ago, we looked at sin, transgression, and iniquity. And the transgression is particularly grievances that you have against somebody else. Here's a line, you cross it. When you trespass, you go on somebody else's property, right? An angry and a furious man, they abound in transgressions. It will lead to division, impatience, hatred, verbal abuse, emotional damage, and it can even lead to physical abuse. That's kind of like the end goal of anger is to be completely out of control and to cause all kinds of havoc, okay? In Proverbs, it clearly states that an angry man abounds in transgressions. An angry person's judgment is clouded by their anger. When you're angry or you're having an angry outburst, not only are you causing damage, but the things that you should be doing, you can't do, okay? Mercy cannot be showed during an outburst of anger. The love of Christ cannot be showed during an outburst of anger. The gospel cannot be effectively spread with an outburst of anger. Edification, encouragement, all of the fruits of the Spirit, and every positive biblical principle cannot be exercised during an outburst of anger. Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. When you choose to have an outburst of anger, you choose death because it's destroying something rather than giving life, building something up. Okay, so first it destroys our relationship with others, but then it destroys our relationship with God. Psalms 37:8-9, cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil, for evildoers shall be cut off. But those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. We already looked at the evil that proceeds from anger, and the Lord's blessing cannot be poured on somebody that has an angry personality or angry tendencies or has outbursts of anger, because this evil comes from a lack of self-control. 1 John 4, John, these small Gospels of John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, they talk a lot about love and treating other people. Here we have 1 John 4:20 and 21. If a man say, I love God, and hate his brother, he's a liar. For he that loveth not his brother whom he see, how can he love God whom he hath not seen? And this commandment we have from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also. So not only anger destroys our relationship with others, but it destroys our relationship with God. We can't be angry at everybody else and say, well, at least I have a good relationship with God. I may have severed all connections with my family, but at least I still love the Lord. You're a liar, so according to 1 John. You can't say, oh, I love God, but I hate my brother, okay? You're a liar. The love of God is not in you. We cannot choose to love God and be angry at others. Our anger towards others puts a division between us and God, okay? Then, lastly, anger destroys the angered. Okay, Job 5:2. For wrath killeth the foolish man, and envy slayeth the silly one. Okay, I'm just going to read some of these. This is super boring statistical facts, but I encourage you to listen. Okay, this is put out from Everyday Health in their division of emotional health. Experiencing anger triggers the body to release stress hormones, which over time can take a toll on heart health. Anger, even momentary anger, changes the heart and worsens the muscle's ability to pump blood, which can lead to high blood pressure and subsequent complications like heart disease, heart attack, and stroke. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that anger leads to high blood pressure. But it's a stress hormone. That's why your heart starts stressing out, because that hormone is being released. So quite literally, Job is right. Literally, wrath kills. Anger kills the person that is angry. Here's the National Library of Medicine put this out. There are proofs that establish positive association between negative emotions and conditions with coronary heart disease. Anger can have a direct impact on cardiovascular disease. The liberation of these stress hormones produce an avalanche of events, including metabolic modifications, vascular problems, and disorder with cardiac rhythm. This is just medical scientific facts. When you stress, when you are anger, which is like a high form of stress, it changes how your heart functions, raises your blood pressure. It literally is killing you. Your anger is killing you. Besides it killing the angered person in an internal way, 1,610 injuries and 218 murders have attributed just to road rage in the last 7 years. 12,000 injuries and 218 murders. 66% of traffic violations have been caused by aggressive driving. 300 deaths since 2013 due to road rage. 30 murders annually linked to road rage. 37% of aggressive driving incidents also involve a firearm. And then in the last 10 years, this is put out by CNN, in the last 10 years, road rage cases have increased by 500%. Okay, anger destroys the angered. It is not only mentally affects the angry person, but it physically affects them as well. Again, just because you have an outburst of anger does not mean that you are an angry person and that you're going to die, okay? But just in totality, anger kills the angered. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, your relationships, it's very damaging, okay? We're going to go through all the bad stuff first, then we're going to get to the good stuff, okay? What is an outburst of anger? We understand it can be various things, but what is it at its core, okay? First of all, it's a lack of self-control. Proverbs 16:32, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. That ruling a spirit is an example of self-control, okay? Somebody that can rule their spirit. No matter the situation, they can keep their temper under control. They can keep their spirit under control. Being unable to control your spirit in this area of anger is ultimately a lack of spirit-led self-control. Someone who is unable to control their spirit and their anger, as Proverbs says, is not a strong person. Okay? It is very difficult to control the emotions at times, and it does require some God-given strength. I understand, like in a day's time, Miss Kelly working in the daycare with all like a bazillion little children running around. At some point, that stress and that anxiety builds up to a point, and you just feel like you're going to pop. But he that can control his spirit, he's better than a strong man that can take a city, right? An outburst of anger ultimately is a lack of self-control. It's also a display of pride, Proverbs 13:10. Only by pride cometh contention. It's a big concept with a really small answer. Every argument that you have, every fight that you have, every outburst of anger that you have is all rooted in pride. You have two parties that are unwilling to meet a compromise, whether one's in the right or one's in the wrong, or you're both in the wrong. Whatever it is, only by pride cometh contention. So only by pride comes an angry outburst as well. Okay? Anger, which is very evident form of contention, is rooted in pride. When pride swells up inside someone, it is usually outflows of the mouth and provokes an angry response. This one's big. An outburst of anger is a narrow-minded response. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty in spirit exalteth folly. When you choose to have an outburst of anger, you're looking at the problem like this, okay? So a wise man understands the big picture. An angry man doesn't see the big picture, okay? Spilling coffee on your favorite shirt, okay? In the moment, that's a big deal, okay? It's your favorite shirt, and your shirt is probably ruined, and you're never going to get that coffee stain out. So you just want to rip it off, throw it in the trash, get a new shirt, okay? A hurtful or sharp comment being made. Somebody pulling into the drive-thru on the wrong side. They come off Winona Drive, and they should be coming through the main road side and getting in, but no, like you're pulling in and you got hungry kids that are saying, McDonald's, McDonald's. And they come off Winona Drive and just whip in right in front of you. Just like, no, okay. Getting stuck in traffic, okay. These things, when we read them aloud, it seems almost silly, okay. But in the moment, it's not silly, and it makes you angry, and you want to have an angry response. You want to honk, or you want to roll down your window and like go back onto 23 and come back in like the rest of us, okay? But an angry person, it's a narrow-minded response when you have an outburst of anger. Because in reality, you back it up, it's McDonald's. We live in the United States of America, and you can go get a meal from the time you order it to the time you pick it up if they're really slow in 2.5 minutes. It's like, okay, in reality, like, it really doesn't matter. You spill coffee on your shirt. Okay, 1, you have a shirt that you're wearing. 2, you can probably have 15 other shirts just like it that you can put on. It doesn't matter. In the moment, we don't see that. Having an outburst of anger, especially in a relationship, is a very narrow-minded response. A wise man understands and he refrains from anger, right? Here's an example. Me personally, okay? Don't tell Mrs. Gibbs, and I'm going to have Ethan cut this out. So that when the kids eat snacks over there, they make a huge mess, okay? So I could choose to have a narrow-minded response. No more snacks in the class. You know, your kids eat at home and then go, okay? Or, big picture, Mrs. Gibbs loves those kids probably more than I do, and they're my own kids. She loves those kids. I could not find somebody that loves and prays for those kids and has the patience and grace. Narrow-minded says, no more snacks in class. You're making a huge mess. You're ruining the carpet. When big picture, who cares if we don't have any carpet and it's just bare floor? It doesn't matter. Having somebody that loves those kids and is willing to teach them the commandments of God, that's really what matters. So you can choose to have an angry response and be narrow-minded, or you can big picture. It really doesn't matter in reality, right? Okay. An outburst of anger is also a costly reaction. Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up strife. Anger can provoke anger, which can provoke anger. It's easy for a situation to accelerate when you have an angry person that makes a remark and then another angry person makes a remark back, and it accelerates. Many times these outbursts of anger back and forth, they accelerate to a point where and I'm sorry doesn't fix. You know, you say words that can't be taken back. You know, the example of the tube of toothpaste. It's easy to squeeze all that toothpaste out, and I'll try to put it back in the tube. You can't. Okay, that's with angry outbursts. That's what happens. The things that you say in an angry outburst, it's irreversible. Whether you say you're sorry or not, there's some hurts that come from an angry outburst that you can't fix. An angry response, an outburst of anger is a costly reaction. Okay, so that's all the bad stuff. So now we understand the effects of anger, what anger is, how do we fix the problem? What are some ways that can help us and keep us from being angry? What combats anger, okay? Did I put this out of order? There it is. I put that other slide out of order. The other slide said, the truth does not condone an angry response. So just because you're right, okay, go back, making a mess over there, okay, should the kids make a mess? I mean, they're kids, it really doesn't matter. Maybe it's not a good example. Like, should they make a mess? No, they shouldn't make a mess. But just because something is true doesn't mean that it grants and warrants an angry response, right? Just because you're right doesn't mean that you have a right to be angry, okay? So what combats anger? First, more listening and less talking. That one's a hard one. James 1:19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God, which goes back to when you're being angry and having an angry response, there is nothing God-centered that is going to happen in that response, right? Listening all the way until someone is finished speaking, listening to others' problems and concerns, and waiting to hear the entire story, just that alone can help diffuse anger and an immediate angry response. And sometimes just the patience of listening to somebody else gives you time to think, gives you time to digest what they're actually saying rather than interrupting the person, which now makes them kind of angry because you just interrupted them. Just more listening, less talking. Slow to speech, swift to hear. Okay, next, soft speech. We read this verse already, Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up strife. You can relay the same principle, the same truth, in two different tones, right? And it makes a huge difference, okay? So you're having an argument with somebody, and you say, you're wrong. Okay? Or you say, I don't know if I agree with that, okay? Two different responses. A soft answer will turn away wrath, but grievous words stir up strife. So another example. You're giving, this is big. You're giving somebody the gospel. Here's where this sometimes isn't portrayed. You're giving somebody the gospel. Hey, can I tell you about how to go to heaven when you die? Slam your door in their face. I don't want to talk to you. Slam the door. Your response, well, you're going to die and go to hell. Was that the truth? That may be the truth. Or, I'll be praying that you will reconsider. Okay? Two massively different responses. Just because something is true does not mean it warrants an angry response. Okay? You're in an argument. You never listen to me. Or, would you be willing to hear me out? If they choose not to, that's on them. But throwing out ultimatums and escalating the situation because you're choosing to have angry outbursts doesn't help. Okay? I could really use some help over here. Or, hey, I could use some help, please. Okay? Same truth, same principle being relayed, but in two different ways. Okay? Soft speech, that's what helps combat anger. Forgiveness. We talked about this last week in depth. Not going to necessarily get into that. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, and clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. Then lastly, holding your peace may be the most difficult of the four. Holding your peace. Proverbs 17:28. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise. And he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. Even if you know you are right. Even if you know you are right. And the other person is wrong. At some point in the argument, at some point in the conversation, just close your mouth. There's nothing that you're going to do, even if you're speaking it in love, even if you're being as spirit-led as possible, at some point, sometimes you just have to hold your peace. You're not going to do anything that's going to improve the situation. You can pray about it. You can be humble and be willing to hear and receive. But at some point, sometimes, and it happens, and you probably can think of examples or times in your life where you were dealing with somebody and at some point, like, you cannot get anywhere in the conversation with them, okay? You can either then at that point just be like, I'm done. Like, I'm not, you're irrational. I can't, you don't listen to me. I can't. It's like, no. Or just like, you know what? I'm just going to hold my peace. There's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to improve the situation, and I'm just going to leave it right here, okay? You get to a point in an argument where both parties are not willing to agree, refusing to make angry comments in a response, but rather holding your peace will ultimately help diffuse the situation rather than escalate. If anything, it just puts it at a stalemate, okay? It takes two people to argue, right? So at some point, sometimes you just have to hold your peace and not choose to escalate. There's a lot of information here. It's a big topic. this is something that I have to work on a daily. I am not a patient person. I have high blood pressure, probably because I stress and am angry. But it is so easy to lose patience and to get provoked to anger, whether you're dealing with children, whether you're dealing with other people, or your spouse who knows what, pushes your buttons, whether they mean to or not. And it's easy to have an angry response. Those angry responses are damaging. We looked at that already. But I hope these things help combat anger more. Listening, less talking, soft speech, forgiveness, and holding your peace.